mega event, Startup Saturday as it's being called. But will this be the game changer for Indian entrepreneurs? Their wish list is really quite clear: taxing, regulation, and basically make it easier to do business in India. How much of what they want will the government deliver on? Well, that's what we are trying to find out, of course, on Saturday, and also just what is expected on that big day. With me, a very special panel now. Albinder Dhinsa, co-founder, Grofers; Nitin Saluja, founder of Chayos; and Prakalpa Shankar, co-founder, Social Corps. Thanks so much for taking out time from your 24/7 work lives and being here with us today. What is the one tangible change or the one tangible thing that you would want the government to implement to make it easy for people like you wanting to get into the startup space?
So, I think, I don't think the government will highlight sort of one tangible change that they're going to make.
What would you want?
I think ideally like some changes to the Companies Act that make it easier to sort of register companies, start up a business. Because it's, even though, you know, we are in our home country and it's more or less a formality when you're starting a company to like register one and actually get started, it is still a very sort of, you know, it's still a very poignant like, you know, act of actually saying that, okay, now I have my own company, and right now that process is actually very, very bad. I remember when we were starting up, like it was a nightmare to actually get the company registered. I tried for like 6 months to get our PF registration done, and eventually gave up and went to a consultant and said, can you just like help us do this? I think
there were too many windows that you had to go to, there was too much red tape involved?
Actually, there was no lack of information on what you had to do, right? I was willing to get the hands dirty and say, yeah, we will get this done. But I didn't have a central source of even information to say, like, these are the steps you need to follow and this will get done, right? Even if you followed the steps that you usually heard, it would still not get done. And so I think that would be actually a very good sort of tangible step that would send a very positive signal into the market, that the government is actually not just sort of, you know, paying lip service, but doing something tangible to change the way that companies start over here.
Right. And you were telling me, Prakalpa, about just the kind of paperwork, just adding on to what Albinder is saying, the kind of paperwork that sometimes it involves to be in business.
Yes, so I mean, I've had the chance to do business both in Singapore and India. And I remember when we were starting up in Singapore, I think it took a day for us, in spite of not being, you know, Singapore citizens and all of that, it took us a day to actually put in our papers and we had a company. And I remember in India it took us 3 months. And then even once that's done, you have all these filings to do in India, right? Like service tax, sales tax, like stuff that you would, I mean, you have no idea, and these are things you have to do. So in most cases, you have to count on, you know, a CA or a CS. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're 3 people sitting around a table, you probably can't afford that. And it just becomes incredible. And you can't spend 1/3 of your time doing filings. You probably want to build a business. So I think probably, you know, stuff like first 3 years exempt on audit returns, you know, stuff like that would be really, really useful. I know a lot of other startup ecosystems around the world do that.
Then what's your experience like? What was sort of the most challenging thing along the way?
So as Albinder said, registering a company, once you get past that challenge, running a company on day-to-day basis because of so many different kind of taxes, interstate tax exchanges, so many forms to be filled out, so many notices that you get because you've just forgotten one simple form that was supposed to be used from transferring goods from one state to the other. I went through a similar situation for PF registration, and if there could be a single window clearance, I know we've talked about it a lot, but now that finally people are talking about startups, at least if for startups there could be a single window clearance, it would make our lives much easier. Because it takes a fair bit of time when you have a set kind of a corporate culture where you have, say, a CFO taking care of CFO and his team taking care of all of those regulation requirements that are to be done till the time you don't reach there. You are the one who is responsible for all of it. And as Prakalpa said, we would not really want to like spare an hour out of our week schedule to take care of those things. It should be as simple as it can possibly be. That's what will make a huge difference for a lot of people in starting up and doing business without fear of going wrong.
And that, of course, has been on the list of things that we believe that the government sort of is actively considering, just on how to ease this, you know, the way of doing business in this country, which has sort of been, we figure so poorly on those World Bank reports on the ease of doing business. But what along the way has been most frustrating, Albinder? Along the way, did you sort of ever have these moments where you almost gave up, wanted to give up, or wasn't sure how long, or weren't sure how long you would carry on?
So I think the biggest, the most frustrating thing for us throughout this journey has been sort of dealing with regulation that is clearly very, very archaic and not built for sort of the age that we are in right now, right? So, I mean, very simple example is we still have to maintain records of like employee timesheets on paper because we have a lot of guys who are working on the field. So even though you're a technology company, we have fingerprint readers which take automatic attendance. It doesn't actually matter. Like all our systems, their salary payouts, all that for us internally work on an electronic system so that we don't have to keep a paper trail and like try to, and for us that's more manageable. But just for government regulation, every single warehouse we have, every single delivery station we have, it has a register where the person has to check in and check out. And if somebody like forgets to check in and check out of that, or that register is not maintained properly, then the labor inspector can come in and then like you suddenly have a notice on your hands, right? But it is absolutely unnecessary, right? You would have thought that would have gone away like 10 years ago when biometric came in, but it's still there and it hasn't been changed, and you wonder why.
We wonder why. We hope that the government's listening. That this is the kind of things that you're talking about that need to be eased out. Prakalpa, what about you?
Being able to again do, ease business, not just of doing business inside India, but also doing business across international boundaries. What gets defined as a software product? I mean, just those definitions are incredibly complicated today. I think that would be really interesting. The second perspective is, so Social Cups works with the government, right? Like, so one of our largest kind of partners out there is the government. And I think and if we have to start solving problems like, can you make these systems more, technology based? Can you need to be able to have good, innovative people solving those problems inside of the ministry. And a startup, for instance, can't compete in a tendering process because you need to be registered for a minimum of 3 years. You need to have a turnover of this, all of that. And so automatically, new innovative ideas get thrown out. You actually don't have a way of, even if the government wants to work with you, there is no way that they can formally work with you. So I think that would also be a really, really important thing as we think about how do we make the ecosystem better, how do you make, governance digital, how do you start solving these problems, how do you ensure that startups and, companies can actually compete at that level so that you can actually solve those problems. I think those are two big challenges today.
Well, these are, of course, important points, Nitin, because beyond all the Startup India, Stand Up India, beyond all the talk, all the focus, and all the banner headlines, because invariably, almost every day or every other day, something on a startup, something on entrepreneurs is making top headlines. But we need to do a lot to convert all the talk into action.
Very true, very true. And there are so many ways, so many cues that the government can pick and just convert the talk to the walk. And I was also brainstorming with some of my other entrepreneur friends, and one very simple idea came out that why couldn't there be some like personal tax breaks for a lot of entrepreneurs and their teams to be able to encourage more and more people to join startups, and that will again affect the whole ecosystem in a very, very, very positive way, that there can be a very crisp definition of a startup, and whatever falls into that purview, they should be able to get those.
Right.
So it is now time to give that positive direction and walk the talk.
Right. The finance minister is, of course, going to be one of the key speakers right at the beginning of the session. So let's see all that he has to say. But I just want to talk a bit about funding now. 2015, of course, it was funding. It's been valuations. A lot of the headlines have been taken up by the money that's coming in and how, funding is now a space that's relatively easier. It's not the most difficult thing to do for an entrepreneur. What do you think 2016 is going to be like? More of the same? Money is going to be tighter? There's going to be a bit of a squeeze and more on performance? What do you think it's going to be like, Albinder?
So I think later stage companies are going to find that the money is going to start coming in a lot earlier for them, because typically I think it's a correction cycle of where sort of valuations are getting out of hand, and everybody was getting funded.
You agree they were getting out of hand?
Yeah,
they were.
Absolutely. I mean, we can't put our head in the sand and say that no, everything was rational. It wasn't rational, but basically, sort of that's the sort of first out and first in money that you will typically see, that the late stage money goes out first because the valuations suddenly bloat up, and then the market corrects itself. The early stage guys also struggle. But late stage money is also the first one to come back in because companies typically that get to that point have a higher chance of survival.
I see.
They already have some business model down. They are doing well on unit economics. So I think we will start seeing that money pour in relatively quickly over the first half of the year.
Right.
But I think, again.
So money will come back. So there's
money will come
it's
back.
It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, money will follow returns, right?
Right.
India is still a very growing market, especially if you look at the tech-enabled sectors, if you look at sort of consumer consumption. The macro factors are all there for a case to be made that this is going to be the one place where you are going to generate returns over the next few years. So people will invest in that, right? The only thing is that the ecosystem will keep going through corrections. It will keep going through up and down cycles, right? And I think what you'll see over the next few years, they will just get more extreme and extreme because, I think we saw sort of, 2015 was an extreme up and down cycle where suddenly like everybody was getting funded and suddenly nobody was getting funded.
Right.
I think 2016 you will probably see more of the same at some point.
You're smiling.
My take is very simple. If you have a good business model, money will always follow. Money will always follow. If you have a good business model, if you have strong unit economics, I think it always is going to be the case that you will be flush with funds. And when
2016 in particular? No problem with the money, as long as, like you're saying,
I think good business model, good unit
model.
economics are going to fetch money.
Sure.
Just like grand ideas with very little unit economics are going to find it difficult. I'm not saying it will not happen. They will find it a little difficult.
Okay, Prakalpa?
Yeah, so I think what I hope to kind of start seeing is people starting to raise money because they need to grow rather than they raise money for the sake of raising money. I think we've seen, for the last year, we've seen people raising money just for the sake of money because money is out there, which is terrible, right? That's the worst reason. I mean, 10 years ago, it was, when you saw a business raising money from outside, it was actually a bad thing. Like people would say, oh, are you not doing well? And now you see people raise, funding's not a milestone to reach a goal. Funding has become the goal itself, which is really, really bad for businesses and the way businesses run. So,
do you agree, Arvind?
Actually, I do agree with the fact that funding as a goal is bad for the ecosystem. However, there is a market reality, which is that, you're not going to bring a sword to a gunfight, right? So if everybody else in the market is rational and nobody else is going to raise money and you're all going to survive on profits, great. But if you're going to be, I mean, for 2.5 years, we never raised any money, right? But then the market around hyperlocal and everything started catching fire, right?
Exactly.
So
then there's
either we
no
could sit
option.
back, either we could sit back and say that, look, we are going to stick to our ethos, which is that, we are sort of we are a profitable company, we'll continue operating that way, or we will become the best at, going out and even raising money.
Right.
At that point, you are raising money for the sake of raising money.
Right.
Maybe you don't need it, but you don't want to be the guy who got
left out and didn't raise it when it was out there.
Right.
Do we have the other point that I've been looking at closely is do we have enough people mentoring entrepreneurs in particular who can say the kind of points that are being raised here, that is this the time to do it? Should you sit back, go for it, go with the flow, go with the herd, no, not your time, wait, your time will come? Do we have enough people watching the space closely, giving the kind of gyan and the hand holding that is perhaps often needed?
I think the answer is yes. If you are able to get through to the right people, and I think there are plenty of them, you will be able to get as much gyan as you can possibly need across different pieces of doing business, be it brand building, be it fundraising, be it hiring the right team, be it having the right unit economics. I think there are enough of people out there who've proven it in this country, and my experience has been more often than not they've been supremely accessible. You just need to reach out to them the right way, and there are too many people who've gotten their hands dirty that can help you tell what can be avoided.
Right. So the best way they do say is to learn from other people's mistakes, really. So do entrepreneurs do that as well? Well, on that note, I'm slipping into a quick break. Back with lots more as we look at all that is expected on Startup Saturday and if the government's really going to deliver on these great expectations. Back in a moment.